And what's up, everybody? I'm back with another video. Today it's the kickoff to my end of the year content. I have 4 videos planned for the end of the year. 3 of them have are existing ones that are just being, new versions for this year. You might be wondering where the Dew and Pringles tier lists are going to go, because they're not going to go on this channel anymore. They're actually going to go on I'm the Best, the tier list podcast. We're going to do updated versions of those tier lists there. I will be there along with LikunMiffery and Jeffofthemellows. You can go check those out. I don't have a time release for them. One of them might have already come out at the time of this going up. We don't know. But stay tuned for that. Anyway. This is my top 50 roller coaster rankings. I finally hit 50 credits this year. And so I knew once I hit 50 credits what I wanted to do, which is do a top 50 ranking. I don't have many above 50, but as I ride more coasters and as the credit list gets larger, this will become a more refined top 50 list. There's going to be some here that you're like, what the fuck is this doing in the top 50? And then you'll realize there's like 51 slots. Like one coaster got left out because I grouped a lot of them that are the same, like all the Wild Mouses that I've ridden, together. So, anyway, so we're going to go from 50 up to 1. So, stay care of that. And yeah, these are just my personal rankings. I've even got my Hershey Park shirt on. Visited Hershey Park for the first time this year. And we're just going to do this my own personal rankings. If you disagree with them, that's okay. Everybody's ranking is going to be different. We're all different. Anyway, let's go. So number 50 is Flying Ace Aerial Chase roller coaster. There's multiple versions of this coaster. The one that I rode, though, the only one I've ridden at the time of recording this video is Kings Island. It's a Vekoma suspended coaster. It's like a family coaster. And I put this at the bottom because it is mostly for kids. The only coaster that missed the list is another kid's coaster. This one I put on that. The only reason I put this one above that one, though, is because of the fact that it does have a little bit of a thrill factor with being suspended and stuff like that. But other than that, nothing crazy to say here. So, number 49 is Jolly Rancher Remix, plus all other Vekoma boomerangs that I may ever ride in my lifetime. This is probably the most terrible coaster that I have ever ridden in my life. It is incredibly rough. It made me super nauseous. And I don't think, and this is just, I'm not going to talk about Jolly Rancher Remix specifically, though it is the only Vekoma boomerang that I've rode at the time of this video coming out, but, it just, and then the going backwards part is just where, like, the nail is put in the coffin for me. Just doing it all in reverse is just not great, and it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad, I will not lie. Would not recommend riding them unless you want the credit like I did. And, yeah, so I'm sure there's better versions of them out there, but this one was not great at all. Number 48 is the Racer, specifically the one at Kings Island. And it was one at Kings Dominion as well, but I've not ridden that one yet. But the Racer, in my opinion, I may have had a little too high expectations for the Racer looking back on it now. But it was an incredibly rough ride. We were planning on doing both sides, but I only decided to do one of the sides just because of how rough it was. Now, me and LikunMiffery are 2 big guys, and we were sitting next to each other in this arguably pretty small PTC train, or at least some, I don't know actually what was the PTC train. I think it was PTC, though. And, we were bumping back and forth each other, but it was a rough ride. It was a very rough ride. I got very much stapled on it, too, which never helps in any way, shape, or form, especially with me being a bigger guy. Did not like it. Did not like it at all. Number 47 is Laugh Track at Hershey Park. This was the last new credit I picked up at Hershey Park. And it's my second least favorite credit at Hershey Park. The spinning is not as fun as I thought it was going to be. The cool light effects just they felt kind of cheap. they felt a little outdated. They felt like they weren't as well maintained as they may have looked in some promotional videos or other people's videos about it. The capacity for the ride is also not that great, and I did take that into account here. And also, I got mega stapled on this ride. I don't think I've ever been as stapled as I was on this ride. It was bad. Really, really bad. Just did not have a great experience with this ride overall, and that was kind of a letdown. I had maybe, like Racer, I think I had too high of expectations with this ride going in, and that's why it fell through. Or went too fast in the spinning direction, I should say. Number 46 is Blue Streak at Cedar Point. I've rode this in 2 separate eras. Actually 3. I rode it in 2011 for the first time, or in 2018, and also rode it in 2021. The first time, I just remember getting a big headache out of it. The second time, I remember our restraints coming a little loose, and also it just being a really rough ride. And the third time, I also remember being a little better the third time, but not like decisively better. Not great. It's a nice little classic coaster. I know it got a retracking in 2016, but I think in my opinion that might have made it worse. That might have made the coaster worse. But I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. And then another Cedar Point coaster comes in at number 45. It is Corkscrew, their classic aerodynamics looper. I've only ever heard bad things about this ride, and reluctantly got my one and only ride on it in 2021, and it was just as bad as people had said. I've ridden another Corkscrew model out there. We'll get to it a little later on in the video. That one was a lot better than this one, though. This ride was just completely and utterly rough as hell from the very beginning. Thankfully, it does not go for that long. But especially after the airtime hill that you get right after the drop, no, it is just head malicious intent all the way through. And it really, really hurt, for sure. Would not recommend it again unless you want the credit. You have to think about that, though. Never has a long line, though. That's a plus. And a third straight Cedar Point credit coming in at number 44. It is Cedar Creek Mine Ride. This ride is not necessarily super rough, but it's just so boring. There's never goes super fast. There's never any really major bank turns. The setting for it's not great. It's kind of just like been built up around it. And also I got really stapled on this ride, which did not help my experience with it at all. So kind of all those things mixed together just doesn't make for a necessarily horrible experience, but not a great one either. So number 43, I'm going to call them the Disco Coasters. I've ridden 2 of them. Pipe Scream at Cedar Point and Surf Dog at Kings Island. Yeah, they're pretty much the same. They're not bad rides. A lot of people don't even consider them coasters. I do consider them coasters just because I want to. But it's not like a very exhilarating ride. The spinning is a little more than it looks from the outside. Also a little more than I would have hoped for. And specifically with Pipe Scream, I rode it when I really needed to take a shit. And that is not a good idea. Do not ride any roller coaster, especially a spinning one, when you need to take a shit. So, there you go. But they're not terrible rides. If you like spinning, I think you'll like them. They're not super rough. They have really high capacity, which is good. And they don't take up a very large space. So, number 42 is Lightning Racer. I'm counting both sides here. I count that they're different credits. I got that verified, by the way, but I'm going to put them here as the same one. Lightning Racer at Hershey Park. This is just another really, really rough ride. It definitely could have used some, maybe not the RMC treatment, because it's definitely not going to get the RMC treatment now, but it could have definitely used it definitely could have used a retracking, because it has a really good layout. It does. It's a great layout. Lots of good airtime points, even some cool intersection points with the other car. It doesn't really race though, which when you call your coaster Lightning Racer, you kind of gotta make it race. But you know, it's just super rough. I got stapled on it too, and it just doesn't make for a great experience. So this might be a little controversial of a pudding, but number 41 is Thunderhawk at Michigan's Adventure, plus all other Vekoma SLCs that I might ride, which I haven't ridden any other ones at the time of making this video, but I've ridden Thunderhawk 3 separate times, 2018, 2021, and this year in 2023. I've heard Thunderhawk is one of the better SLCs out there, so maybe I had a little more pleasant of experience as maybe some other people have with riding SLCs. It's still a very rough ride though, from start to finish, and it's just they can get some cool picturesque stuff with these coasters though, and the color scheme is pretty nice too. And it has a lot of inversions, which is cool. But the rough ride experience is definitely something you do not overlook with this ride, and definitely takes into account. So, and then at number 40 is Woodstock Express. This is the older Woody family coaster, both at Kings Island and the Kings Dominion one. Now, I've only ridden the Kings Island one at the time of recording this video, but they're both the same. I just got to get out to Kings Dominion and get on that one when I get the opportunity, but we'll see when that happens. So, but yeah, Woodstock Express. It's honestly, though, not as rough a ride experience as I thought. It's just not very thrilling. You know, pretty basic layout, as you would expect for an older coaster like this one. But it is good. It's not great though. It's low mid at best, as far as a ride experience goes. But you know, it's good for families though. I will admit it's really good for families. Also, Eli got injured on this ride. I take that into account. You don't injure the Prinkless & Company group and get away with it, can you, Woodstock Express? Anyways, another Express comes in at number 39. It's Adventure Express, also at Kings Island. Their Mine Train coaster. This one is just another one that was like very forgettable for me. It does have some little bit of some of its own moments with some higher speed moments. The theming's actually not bad on this ride either, and I really appreciate that. But it has one of the most anticlimactic finishes of all time, and that really can just like kill any of the mood that you might have for the ride, especially with having that lift hill right at the end too. You expect like a nice big finale, and then nothing at all, and that's why it's number 39. Number 38 is Zach Zoomer at Michigan's Adventure, the roller coaster that got me over my fear of roller coasters, so it'll always hold a sentimental piece to my heart because of that. This ride, I've ridden it again 3 times, 2018, 21, 2021, 2023, and if I hadn't ridden it in 2023, I probably would have put this ride a lot higher, because my last ride in 2023 was terrible. It was extremely rough. The airtime was just not there. My 2018 ride was great. My 2021 ride was okay. It wasn't anything spectacular, but it wasn't bad either. The 2023 was just terrible. Very, very bad. Did not enjoy it at all. And that kind of sucks. You know, kind of killed the mood on it. But it's still good enough to go to 38 for the rankings. So, number 37 is Test Track at Epcot, Disney's Epcot. And you know, remember I rode this back in 2011. So I don't remember a whole lot about it, but I do remember it doesn't really do much. It really doesn't. and just a lot of twists and turns. Because it does, I don't remember it really being connected to much of a track. It is a launch coaster, though. The launches are actually pretty good, and the theming was excellent on this ride too. So I'll give it that. But other than that, just not a very exciting layout as far as I remember. So got to take that into account when going over the ride. Number 36 is in Vertigo. We're back at Kings Island. Their Vekoma, I don't remember. Their in Vertigo model, that's what it is. Basically an inverted boomerang. This ride was actually pretty fun. I thought going backwards and forwards was a lot more fun on this ride than it is on the actual boomerangs. The big nod to it, though, is that it is quite rough. Not as rough as the SLCs and the boomerangs, but it's still not a very smooth experience. And its capacity is quite bad, making for a long line. So, there you go. But not a terrible ride, honestly. I didn't have very high expectations for it, and I came away with a pretty good ride experience. So, number 35 is Super Duper Looper. We're back at Hershey Park again. This ride isn't like rough or anything like that. It's just quite boring. The start of the ride is pretty good, actually. You get good speed. The loop is very intense. But then once you're done with the loop, nothing really happens. You just kind of meander your way through the rest of the course. And that kind of just kills any of the mood. I know this is an older coaster and it's got a lot of historical significance to it. And I definitely think it's not a terrible ride. I definitely enjoyed it. Just not kind of mid. Number 34 is Trailblazer, once again at Hershey Park. This ride's big thing for me was the fact that it's really low to the ground. I think that was really cool. Also smelling barbecue while riding it was quite nice. But again, just doesn't. It's a mine train, so it's not going to have like super awesome elements to it. But it kept pretty good speed throughout the ride. Nice low to the ground action, and I definitely enjoyed that. So, number 33, I have Iron Dragon, the aero suspended coaster at Cedar Point. This ride is the first time I rode this back in 2021. I remember it being pretty smooth, but just a lot more boring of experience. But when I rode it this year in 2023, I remember it being a more fun layout, but rougher. It's definitely not the smoothest coaster in the world, though, if you think about both times that I've ridden it. But it's not bad either, I'd say. I mean, the dual lift hills is definitely a little unnecessary. The finale is pretty good, but other than that, kind of just meandering your way through. It's definitely the weakest of the aero suspended coasters still left on the planet. And I definitely want to ride like Viper or some of the other ones to get a better experience of those before they close. I just haven't gotten the chance to. So, number 32 is Rougarou, again at Cedar Point, the only B&M floorless coaster that I have ridden. And I'm not a big fan of this ride. I've ridden the 2018, 2021, and 2023. And I don't know why I keep getting convinced to get back on this thing every time I go to Cedar Point. Because I just don't like it. I don't. It's not good. It's rough as hell, first off. Especially big head banging. And that just really makes it hard to enjoy a lot of the elements of this ride. It was converted from a stand-up coaster to a floorless coaster. So that could be why there's maybe a little bit of jankiness in the transitions and whatnot. And it's not like, it doesn't have a terrible layout. I think it's got a good amount of inversions, a lot of good speed and everything like that. Just the headbanging is a killer on it, really. Number 31 is Corkscrew, not the one at Cedar Point, the one at Michigan's Adventure. I think there's also an identical version of it at Valley Fair, but I have not ridden that one yet. But Corkscrew, it is, it's a ride, for sure. This one's not as rough as the one at Cedar Point. Despite opening up a year earlier, I think it's been better maintained. It's definitely not a smooth ride experience, though. It's quite rough still. But it's not terrible. Not terrible at all. But it's really quick. Not a lot of, exciting elements to it. So that, you got that to think about as well. And again, it's not the smoothest ride experience in the world. So I'd recommend sitting in the back, though, if you ride that, because it's got a good launch off with the drop. Sticking with Michigan's Adventure for number 30, Wolverine Wildcats. Another one that I've ridden multiple years. This one, I rode in 2018. I thought it was rough, but had really good airtime. I rode in 2021. I thought it had better. I thought it was worse airtime and more rough. And then this year when I rode it, it was a lot smoother. But not as smooth. They got a retracking over the off season, and I thought that was going to greatly improve it. But apparently, they only retracked part of the ride. Why, Cedar Fair? Why do you do this to your adventure? But it was not bad. The airtime's pretty good on it. It's pretty short of a ride experience, but definitely a good, solid coaster at the park. I definitely like it. Sorry. Number 29 is another wooden coaster, this time at Hershey Park. It is Comet. So, Comet is one that is hard to rank for me because it really wasn't that bad of a ride experience. It was one of the smoother wooden roller coasters that I've ridden. It had stronger airtime, and I think the interactions that it has with Sky Rush and some of the other coasters in the park helps set a better pace, a better tone for it. But it's still not the smoothest ride in the world, and it doesn't have super exciting elements. Its historical factor is really where it thrives, and that's kind of just what you gotta go with for it. But it's a fun ride, though. It definitely exceeded my expectations, and I had a lot of fun with it, so... Number 28 is The Beast at Kings Island, a legendary wooden roller coaster. I rode this twice when we went there last year, both once in the day and once at night. And yeah, the night ride is definitely where you want to go with this. The night ride was absolutely incredible, but the day ride was, it's okay. It's not, again, it has good speed, I will say. And it's not a very rough ride experience either. It just is boring as fucking hell, especially in the daytime. At night, it's cool, like meandering through the woods and shit with no lights. And that's a really awesome experience and one I will never forget. But in the daytime, you can see everything, and you're just kind of like winding and stuff like that. And it's got the dual lift hills and a really long ride experience, which again, you really love at night. During the daytime, though, crazy stuff. That's why I kind of put it at 28. Number 27 is all the wild mice or mices that I've ridden. I've ridden 2 at the time of recording this video, but I'll include all others like it as well when I think about this video. The one at Michigan's Adventure, the one at Hershey Park, plus any others. These are more exhilarating ride experiences than what might meet the eye. Very janky turns, aggressive turns, and you can actually get some pretty good drops off of this stuff, especially at the one with Michigan's Adventure. The downside is they have pretty bad capacity, so you have to bear to wait in quite a long line for that one, but I would not recommend it. But I want to ride the indoor ones at Six Flags now, because I think they'll have different experiences. But these were not bad rides. These two were not. Number 26 is the Bat at Kings Island, the other aero suspended coaster that I have ridden. I guess I forgot. I guess when I talked about Iron Dragon, I forgot I'd also ridden the Bat. The higher end, better suspended coaster, and it was. A lot of the same things about Iron Dragon I'll say about this one. it does a lot of meandering and stuff like that, but the speed is much greater, so it can do a lot. When you Iron Dragon, you maybe do a little bit of this. With the bat, you're going like this, and that definitely adds to a better ride experience for sure. And I really like that. It carries good speed, going through the woods and stuff. A nice fun drop. Really enjoyed this ride, but just not enough of a thrill level to justify putting it any higher. So number 25 is Zippin' Pippin at Bay Beach. We rode it one time in the back row, and it was an experience for sure. I waited a long time for this ride, by the way. Some people call it like the Death Hill, I think it is. And it's I didn't know what they were talking about when before I rode the ride, but I knew exactly what they're talking about now. It's right near the end of the ride. Some of, if not the strongest airtime that I have ever had on a roller coaster. Rest of it, though, it was fine. Not super smooth, but not really rough either. The airtime as a whole is pretty good, I will not lie. So this is definitely an enjoyable experience for sure. Minimal security, though, on the ride. Minimal ride check, safety check thing, and that takes it down a couple notches, but it's still a decent ride overall. Number 24 is the Wild Mouse at Cedar Point. This one is different. I'm not ranking this on the same one as the other two that I've ridden because of the different ride layout and it spins. So it's going to be its own individual ranking here. And this was a fun ride. This one spins too. And I remember when I talked about the disco coasters and laugh track, the spinning was a little excessive. This one I thought was a just right amount of spinning. It's a very smooth ride experience too, and you factor in that it has bank turns with the Wild Mouse layout. Really fun ride experience. Definitely enjoyed my time riding this one. It's one that if it doesn't have that long of a line, which it usually does, I'll definitely jump on it and give it a ride. Number 23 is the first defunct credit on this list. It is a Wicked Twister at Cedar Point. Another Cedar Point credit here. This ride has some awesome launches, and the twist spikes were awesome to experience. Really like that. Problem was, though, it was quite a headbanger, and you can't deny that when taking into account your thoughts about the ride. But still a really fun experience, and I'm very sad that they took it out, but Wild Mouse did come in. But Wicked Twister gets the edge, so it wins in our hearts. Anyway. Number 22 is another launched roller coaster. It is Flight of Fear. I'm talking specifically... sorry. Got a little bit of congestion. Number 2, okay, Flight of Fear. I'm talking about the one at Kings Island. Specifically, there's another identical one at Kings Dominion that I hope to get on at some point. But this is an indoor launched roller coaster. And I gotta say, the theming was really good on this ride. It was also air conditioned, which is awesome because it was hot as hell that day. And honestly, the launch is awesome. The launches are really good on this ride. The rest of the ride is just okay. It didn't feel like it really carried the speed that you would think it would, based off of that launch. But the inversions were cool, especially in the dark. A lot of fun. Definitely enjoyed my ride experience on this one. So, all right. Moving on to number 21, another launched roller coaster. Backlot Stunt Coaster, another one at Kings Island, but also at Kings Dominion. Paramount loved to get multiple of the same coaster, okay, people? This was a very fun ride, in my opinion. Really fun launch, and the effects were really cool, and you really got to appreciate that when you look at a ride like this. You really got to appreciate it, how good it was. It was smooth. Not the most accelerative launch, not like the most exciting one out there. But I thought it carried the speed better throughout the ride than Flight of Fear did. And I got a credit with that one on that. Cracking off the... Sorry. Give me a minute here. All right, number 20 is Candemonium at Hershey Park. What do I say about this one? I got mega stapled on this ride, which I did not like. I did not like getting stapled on this one. However, I was still able to enjoy the ride's good airtime. Though I gotta say, terrible operations. Terrible operations. I don't think I've said that for any ride up until this point. Terrible ops, though. It just was not good. And, getting stapled didn't help either. And then you had, the airtime, though, was good. I thought the airtime was really, really good. Still very much enjoyable. I mean, it is a B&M Hyper, so you would expect that. Really good theming as well. Really, really good look to it as well. So, I got a credit for that. Still a really good ride. Just some other nitpicks that I didn't really like. Number 19 is Gatekeeper at Cedar Point, the only B&M wing coaster that I have ridden. And honestly, this is a fun ride. It's not super. It's not super like. What's the word to say for this? Not like. Shit, I don't know what the word is. Anyway. I thought the inversions were good. It's not super intense, but I think that was the word I was looking for. But it's not super intense. Inversions are really good. The keyhole element is awesome. And the final helix actually is a little intense, I will say. And the wing element is really, really cool. And it's a fun ride. So, really, really like it. Plus, the beach setting is really cool, too. Definitely like that. Number 18, also at Cedar Point, Valravn, their B&M dive coaster, the only dive coaster that I've ridden at the time of making this video. This is another good one. Really, really good coaster. It does not really have a lot of good elements outside of, the drops, but the drops are really, really, really good. Really, really good. And also a very underrated final inversion. Really good inversion there too. And it's a spectacular ride to just watch. And you can always appreciate that. So, but a good one. Good one nonetheless. Number 17 is Mystic Timbers, the GCI Woody at Kings Island. I gotta say, this ride was not as good as people were hyping it up to be for me. It does have good airtime, and I was expecting a lot of it, and I did get pretty good airtime with it, but it really wasn't, as strong of airtime as I was hoping for. I think that's just because it goes through the elements so quickly, that it's a little difficult to catch enough air with the ride, but I didn't think it was terrible. I really didn't. I thought it was good. The Timbers that I thought was better, though, number 16, is Shivering Timbers. The last Michigan's Adventure credit on this list, the highest ranking. And I feel like as far as getting more coasters on this list, this is the only coaster that will stay on the list as years go by. As my Michigan's Adventure credit list. This is a really, really fun ride. I've ridden it two times now in 2018 and recently just in 2023. The airtime on this ride is just insane, and it has a really, really long ride experience, but unlike the Beast, it packs more into that ride experience. I think a night ride on this thing would go so hard. It would be so much fun. It is right along the parking lot, so that might kill some of the mood, but I think it would just be so much fun to ride this at night. It just looks so massive. Great airtime, long ride experience, and a fairly smooth one too. I was quite surprised. They've done some good work with maintaining this ride, and it really, really shows with how smooth it still is. Number 15 is Orion, the B&M Giga roller coaster at Kings Island. This is another one that I got nearly stapled on, which kind of killed my ride experience. This one is just not like anything crazy. It's just a lot. It's just maybe a larger version of a B&M Hyper, without a lot of the airtime that made the B&M Hyper so good. We'll get to Kings Island's B&M Hyper a little later on, but Orion still does a really good job at carrying good speed. It looks really cool, good theming. It's still a lot of fun to ride for sure. Sorry, I keep clearing my throat. I'm trying to keep going here. Number 14. We're in the top 15 now. We're at 14. First invert on the list. Great Bear B&M invert. Definitely the weakest of the B&M inverts I've ridden, but the fact that it's still number 14 says a lot of how much I think B&M inverts are awesome. But Great Bear, it doesn't pack a lot of the intensity factor that I would have come to know for B&M inverts. It has a very unique ride layout, which I definitely think helps it. It does a good job of interacting with a lot of the other rides in that area of the park, and I think that's a lot of cool. It just doesn't pack as much of a punch, and that's why I think it's the weaker of the B&M inverts that I've ridden. Still a really good ride. Sticking with Hershey Park, number 13, Fahrenheit. I really debated putting Great Bear above Fahrenheit, but I decided to put Fahrenheit above Great Bear instead, mostly because I just think it packs a little bit more of a punch to it. The vertical lift hill is awesome, and the drop is just not as good as I thought it was going to be, because you don't go over as fast. But the inversions are really good. It did have a rattle, but it wasn't anything like super noticeable or like really much affecting my ride experience. So that was still really good. A very unique ride experience all throughout. I'd never seen really a roller coaster like this around. Sorry. I think there's one of them in like Europe or something, but when am I ever gonna go there? So ride this one instead. So number 12 is Gemini at Cedar Point. This might be a controversial add to my top 15, but I love Gemini. Everything bad that I said about Lightning Racer is good with Gemini. It actually races, and it does a great job at racing. Still super smooth, great airtime, and just overall a really, really fun experience. It doesn't pack too much into it, but it packs just enough for an amazing ride experience. Love Gemini. A lot of people said it's going to be taken down soon. I really hope it doesn't. It's a crowd pleaser, really, really fun for all ages, and it's just good for families and everything too. And I think people will be very sad that this one went. I love it though. I want it to stick around. Please, Cedar Point, keep it around. Number 11 is Storm Runner at Hershey Park. And this is a launch coaster for the ages. Holy moly. This is a really good launch coaster. Talk about good momentum. The top hat gets you really good airtime, and it just does a great job of carrying the speed throughout the ride. It's a very short ride experience, though. And I do wish it was a little longer, but what they pack in there is just awesome. Awesome stuff. So. Then at number 10 is Top Thrill Dragster, another defunct credit now. Rest in peace. At Cedar Point. Oh my god. I don't think I'll ever have a better first ride experience that I had on Top Thrill Dragster. On a blissful September night, going up the 420-foot top hat, 120 miles an hour for the first time, going up into the literal clouds. Literally, they literally said race to the sky, and you literally race I was literally in the sky. I could, in the clouds. Never, ever will I forget that experience. The launch is just second to none with how awesome it is. They had bleachers set up. The music and the theme song, Baby, I'm ready to go. Oh, so good. So good. Fucking love this ride. Sad it got taken down, but hopefully Top Thrill 2 can continue the memories. So. Number 9, I have Diamondback. Now, Kings Island's a B&M Hyper roller coaster. Yeah, I think this is one of the best rides at Kings Island. In fact, it's my second favorite ride of the park. This one, other than like Orion and Candemonium, I didn't get stapled on it at all. And I was able to just gracefully enjoy the airtime. Gives a great ride experience too. Meandering its way through the park. The splashdown element at the end is awesome. Absolutely loved every second of this ride. It was a lot of fun. And I'll never forget it. But the hyper that beats it out, in my opinion, is Magnum XL 200, number 8 on my rankings. Now, Magnum is definitely not as smooth. However, I think it has incredible airtime. Diamondback has great airtime, but Magnum has amazing airtime. And also Magnum, in my opinion, has a much better night ride than Diamondback does. Because you can just, like, I remember going out into the park and you can, like, the water park lights are off and you can just look out into the lake and it's so cool. And then those bunny hills coming back you're just like flying out of your seat. And now they have lights in the tunnel. And it's just awesome. It's quite rough, and some people might not like that, but I can overlook it for how good the airtime is and a lot of fun. So this is one that definitely blew me away when I rode it for the first time. Another Cedar Point one at number 7. It is Millennium Force, their Giga Coaster. Talk about a ride experience with this thing. The speed is just relentless from start to finish. And actually, I think it has really good airtime. And keeps up its good momentum throughout the ride. And just makes for a really fun experience. And also, another banger theme song by Cedar Point. Really good. So, number 6 is Maverick, their Intamin Blitz coaster. And again, another masterpiece of a roller coaster. Just the launches are so much fun. Super intense, but not too intense, I thought. Not the most intense coaster I've ridden. It was at one point the most intense coaster that I've ridden, but there's a coaster coming up that passed that ranking. But also just does a really good job of staying low to the ground. The inversions are a lot of fun. Never had a bad Maverick experience, let's say that. I've also not had a bad now, number 5 and 4 were two ones that I kept interchanging a bunch when making my rankings, but I decided to go with this. However, I could be persuaded otherwise. Number 5, though, cracking the top 5, is Banshee, Kings Island's B&M invert, and this is in turn my highest Kings Island ranked coaster. Banshee is an interesting ride for sure. It definitely doesn't pack as much of a punch with the intensity as you would think of some of the older B&M inverts in Great Bear, like I said with Great Bear. However, it's really smooth. It has a really long ride experience, lots of cool inversions, especially that really cool one at the end where you do the twist thing, kind of like what you do with Valraven, except a little bit longer, which I really like. The theming is awesome on this ride too, I gotta say. And it's just overall a lot of fun to ride this ride. However, my favorite B&M invert, and also subsequently the number 4 coaster on my list, is Raptor, Cedar Point again. It might be a little bit of nostalgia talking, but I think Raptor is what I would consider a great quintessential B&M invert. Really fast, good inversions, and good speed. Tight turns, tight transitions that really just amplify what a B&M invert is. And for that, I have to thank it. It is really good. Intense, not too rough, and just overall has aged really well. And it's definitely still a park favorite to this day, and one of my favorites. So, really good. Number 3 is Sky Rush at Hershey Park. This one took me by surprise. A lot of people were saying how bad this coaster is because of its restraints. So I wasn't expecting a whole lot, but holy crap, is this coaster This coaster is something else. I tell you what. It is by far the most intense roller coaster that I have ridden, and it is just packing a punch left and right. I think the seat style and the restraint style actually adds to the experience of it. Sitting on the wings is a lot of fun with this coaster, and just something I've never experienced before. Even on an actual B&M wing coaster, it doesn't have that same feel to it. And you just absolutely fly through the elements. Great airtime. Again, very intense, snappy transitions. Overall, just an incredible ride to ride. Blew me away 10 times over. Absolutely loved it. And then at number 2 and 1 should not be that much of a surprise if you follow my roller coaster credit list. But number 2 is the highest ranked Hershey Park credit. It is also my 50th credit officially, and it's Wildcats Revenge. They're new for 2023 RMC Highward conversion. Now, I never got to ride the original Wildcat at Hershey Park. Heard it was pretty bad though, very rough, not very popular. But this ride is an incredible ride experience. Butter smooth, really good airtime, great inversions. What more can I say about it that other people haven't already? It is just peak to the max. The only reason why it's not number 1 is just because I don't think it's as extreme as my number 1. But it doesn't have to be extreme. It has good policies too. The locker policy, much better than my number 1, and that almost pushed me over to put it at number 1. I really did. And this you could make a good case for this coaster at number 1, and I would agree with it. I really would. And there's like that's what I said about a lot of things on this list. You can interchange a lot about this list. To say, oh, this belongs above this, or this belongs below that. And I could agree with you. But again, that's the whole thing about personal rankings. They're going to be different for everybody, and that's just what you got to deal with. So, and that's why my number 1 is still Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point. It's been my number 1 now for 5 years, and I don't see any coaster overtaking it. If a new Wildcats Revenge can't do it, I don't know what could. Oh my god, I am always so blown away whenever I ride this thing. The airtime on this ride is insane. It's like taking the Death Hill on Zippin' Pippin and just throwing that into an entire 2.5 minute ride experience. From the first drop all the way to the final breaks, it is just relentless amounts of airtime all throughout. Great speed too, still really smooth, really good inversions. It twists in and out of the structure. It looks incredible. And it's just really a quintessential combination of RMC, the hot company to make these great coasters nowadays, and Cedar Point, the number 1 park in the world. You put them together with a coaster like Mean Streak that was absolute dog shit, and you get this. It is beautiful. A thing of beauty. So that's my number 1, and that's my top 50. The only coaster that got left out, I'll give a little honorable mention to Woodstock Express at Michigan's Adventure. It's a kiddie coaster. That's why it wasn't on here. I hope to get out in 2024 and ride more coasters. I know I'm probably going to ride at least 1 new coaster next year, but I hope to ride more. We'll see with our travel plans and whatnot what ends up happening. But I hope to ride at least a few more new ones to help fill up my top 50. And then maybe I'll re-ride some ones that I haven't, that are on this list already, and I can adjust the ranking as such. And we can continue this as a yearly thing now, which is awesome. Yay! So that's going to be cool. But I want to know what your rankings are. What are your thoughts on my rankings, and what are your rankings? What would you have changed? What would you have added? What would you have fixed? What are ones I need to get out and ride sooner rather than later? I'd love to know all of your thoughts about that in the comment section down below. So that's going to do it for this video. That's going to do it for today. Stay tuned for my other end of the year stuff, and go get ready for those tier lists on I'm the Best, or if they're already up, go watch them now. And until next time, see you guys later. Goodbye.